99.1 FM.
Furby's 99.5 FM. Kiteshare Radio.
Stay in the know with Kiteshare Radio. Join us daily, Monday to Friday at 13 hours 30 for COVID-19 and Elections Watch with senior journalist Leonard Gildarie and Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Join us as they keep you updated on the latest news on elections 2020 and the COVID-19. COVID-19 and Elections Watch only on Kiteshare Radio. Kiteshare Radio, the radio with a difference.
COVID-19 tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Dex Soap for that extra cleanliness. Dex Soap is affordable and available nationwide.
It's 13 hours 27 in Guyana. We're going to make an early start for COVID-19 and Elections Watch this afternoon. At the helm of the program, we have Mr. Leonard Gildarie, senior journalist of Kiteshare News, alongside his co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. And I have a question for Dr. Yog Mahadeo. I don't recognize our host this afternoon. He looks a bit like, what's his name, Pablo Escobar in the studio this afternoon with his wonderful new shave he had over the night. But comments for later. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. They say when you give somebody an inch, you take a yard, and I'm not sure. What kind of authorization that the staffers, technicians, the backup people in the office who would decide to step on Yog and Gildarie's territory. That being the case, I can't do without them, though. Yog, I want to say good afternoon to my co-hosts, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and all the boys in the studio. Raj, Joshua, Kevin has been there with us, so we can't do it without them. And of course, they owe us, and we will come back to that. Yog, good afternoon to all our people right across this beautiful country of ours. We have made an early start, or we are starting a little early today because at 3 o'clock, we do some upgrades to our system here, so we could be able to bring you better services as we go along. As you know, with days of technology, you got to keep constantly on track in keeping with the changes that are happening. And if you don't change, you're going to remain where you are without going forward. So we don't want to remain where we are. We want to continuously bring the news to the people, bring you with the latest updates. And I want to say good day to you. How are you doing, Yog?
I am well, thank you, and good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to all of our viewers and listeners, and of course to Kevin Smith. Kevin, I would want to take your side. It's a democracy we have, and so you feel free to have any jabs, that you can, especially if the jabs would be at Mr. Leonard Gildarie. Not a problem from my side.
Well, we had a very long weekend. A lot of folks were calling us in, Yog, wanting to know when room 592, especially, that seems to be taking on a life of its own. I believe that you were planning in your wicked mind that I should do a lot more work in addition to what Kiteshare News has been handing to me, and there's been a lot. I'm not sure what you want me to do. Like, I have no personal life, nothing outside other than Kiteshare News, Kiteshare Radio. But guess what? It has been fun. It is a very serious week. It is a very serious week, Yog. This week is July the 7th, 2020. I'm not sure why that date seems to be very important. What is important is that within a few hours, the Caribbean Court of Justice is set to hand down a key ruling, key decisions rather, and there may be some orders that's going to come with that with regards to elections 2020. It's widely felt that this is the end of the road, that whoever is in power, the stakeholders, all parties must abide by the court, the Caribbean Court of Justice decision, and that is expected to be tomorrow. Yog, there are many things to talk about today. Like, for example, I think almost overtaking elections 2020 is the situation with COVID-19. The COVID
Absolutely.
19 situation, I think we have, it's about 3 deaths over the last couple of days. Not something that we should be very happy about. The reasons for that is that we have lost, it seems, a little control over our borders. There is a report in today's Kaicho News that a couple of folks, I think it's a minibus driver and two others, were caught in the act of trying to bring a busload of Brazilians down to Georgetown. And how they were caught? They were caught at a border area that is illegal, meaning it's not regulated. And there's 1,000 miles right across from of Brazilian border with Guyana. And so it's very difficult. We don't have the manpower, we don't have the technology to monitor that, and they were caught. And so the question that arises there obviously is how many cases like this that would have happened, that would have slipped through the cracks, that we're not aware of. And so these are very, very big issues. But let's get right down to it, Yog. We want to stop talking, invite our people to come on to the radio, for let them talk, so we could close off at 3 o'clock on the dot, so our boys could do their stuff. So Yog, right over to you. The big issue right now is that court ruling tomorrow. How important is this court ruling, Yog?
Well, Leonard, you and I would have discussed this somewhat last week. And one of the things I think we need to remind ourselves of is, notwithstanding all of the politicking that has been going on with regard to the CCJ and the matters in front of the CCJ, it does not and it cannot remove and change the responsibility of Keith Lowenfield. I mean, Lowenfield has to abide by whatever is in the law. The question before the CCJ, given what Lowenfield did last week, week before last, whatever the CCJ rule, it seems like Lowenfield is going to make a decision on his own as to how he wants to interpret those numbers. Remember, this thing about valid votes, we keep saying, and it's important to remind ourselves that it's only valid votes that matter. One cannot take invalid votes into consideration in declaring any elections. It has to be only valid votes. However, the determination of what is a valid vote cannot be because APNU AFC said the vote is not valid. It cannot be because one set of persons, one political party has said Leonard Gildarie's vote must not count, and then Lowenfield has to dance to that tune. It has to be based on what is the rule, what is the law, and everybody knows that if you need to question the validity of votes, then you need to go to the courts with an election petition. The worry that Guyana has, Leonard, is that there is an incumbent in office that absolutely refuses to take any word other than it being APNU FC has won. So they're going to try every single thing. And I don't think we have seen the end of this road as yet. They are going to try other things. I still think that will happen. APNU AFC is not going to want to hear anything other than APNU AFC won. And, it's like, I think you look at the advertisement that would have, happened in Trinidad, for example, and I find that strange that in Trinidad now they have had these advertisements placed there to influence or to threaten the CCJ. Since when, as a people now, we are threatening the courts? And Leonard, I asked last week and I wish to repeat, if a particular percentage of this population is angry at the CCJ, shouldn't a particular percentage of the population then feel justified to express anger against the Court of Appeal? Because whatever each court decide, some people are going to win and some people are going to lose. Nobody took full page ad. Nobody attacked the judges of the Court of Appeal. Nobody on the losing side, nobody did that. There is sense and sensibility prevailing, at least in a majority of the population. But all of a sudden, we find that the thing has gone to CCJ. So now full page advertisements are being taken. And to what aim? To hold the CCJ at what? To threaten them? To call them out for what? What are we doing to this image that is Guyana? Already we are the laughing stock across the world. What are we now doing? And I think a wonderful, phrase has come out from a letter writer in Trinidad in response to this ad. And that phrase reeks of what is happening in Guyana. And that is, until and unless everybody is willing to say PNC has won, then it will never be accepted. And at the end of the day, you got to look at this thing with conceit and the great con that is in it, and see what's the next play for the PNC here, Leonard.
Yes, absolutely. And don't forget, there's deep worry over the attacks on the CCJ. If you look to the Kaichor News today, it's July 7, 2020, and the top of the newspaper, there's a headline: Bar Association condemns attack on CCJ ahead of ruling. And if you would look at the contents of that report, it's basically the Bar Association, which is a body that includes lawyers. If you look at that association, they're saying there is a decision that is coming from the Caribbean Court of Justice. It is not wise. It's not a good thing at this point in time to go out of your way and attack or do anything to try to influence the ruling of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Yesterday, you would have seen across the country that there were pockets of people who are representing the coalition in a couple of communities. One was at the Grickle, another one at Boxton, I think one at Linden, and I'm not sure, I think up in Berbice as well. What is significant about that is that while that is happening, the Bar Association came out with a statement, and they're warning about this because don't forget, there's a whole lot of, this thing is very, very sensitive. The Caribbean Court of Justice is supposed to be the regional final stop court for countries who have signed on to it, and Guyana has signed on. The other thing that you must take note of is that there is CARICOM as well, which has its headquarters in Guyana, which has come under attack. So it is CARICOM, CCJ, the entire world has basically come under criticisms because of their stance on these elections, about where this country should go with regards to the stalemate that has occurred. It has been more than 4 months now since that elections on March 2nd, and for you to not have a president for you not to have been able to have a government that is functioning and not being able to access resources which will help our country through this COVID-19. It is something that should worry all. This is very, very serious time. Tomorrow is a very key ruling. The whole world is watching what's the next state of play. And this would come even as threats of sanctions. I think this morning there's another letter that's coming from a congressperson of the United States, which is written to, I think it is President David Granger, advising him, warning him of some of the pitfalls that can occur. So, Yog, it is getting, we've been talking about crunch time. We've been talking about every time we reach at a certain stage, there's something seems to be cropping up. It is coming to this point in time, talking to the authorities, talking to diplomats and so on. You seem to have the impression that the walls are going to close in Guyana very shortly. And let me tell you, the alternative to this is that you have used the word, we have used the word pariah, and so many times over this radio program on room 592 also. People are extremely worried because they have an idea as to where we're headed. I don't think our people in itself, our leaders, have an idea as to what is awaiting us if we decide to walk that road. So there is a crossroad at the moment. We hoping. Yes, go ahead, Yog.
Well, Leonard, I beg to disagree. I think the PNC knows what is the meaning of sanction. They fully well know what could happen. Don't forget, it was the same Granger and the same Basil Williams in 2015 were talking about sanctions. They know exactly what it is. What they're hoping is that under humanitarian grounds and all of that, if you look at what JJB LLC has been spouting over the past week, they are talking that basically, based on humanitarian grounds, sanctions cannot be imposed upon a country. What they're hoping is that all of us would cry out, we don't want sanctions, and so that will be a buy for them. Now, I mentioned earlier, Leonard, that people are talking, coming back to this full page ad that was in the Trinidad Guardian. And, somebody said it right. The issue is no longer who won these elections. The issue is how much can the PNC manipulate the Constitution to stay in power? And to what lengths they are going to go to manipulate the Constitution to stay in power. And, I want to mention this because if a president, a sitting president that has lost these elections, have called upon people to come out and protest what? Not that you have lost these elections, but protest against CCJ for daring to say you have lost this election. This is the same CCJ that they were happy to take the third term case to. Remember when Jagdeo's third term case by somebody or the other that decided this case must go to the CCJ. By that time, CCJ was the darling of this incumbent government. Now the same CCJ, they're creating protests and everything against the same CCJ, telling them you cannot rule over us. You cannot adjudicate a matter over us. Now the CCJ needs no defense. I'm sure the judges are going to do what it will do. But Leonard, by doing all of this cabal doing all that they're doing, what do you think will happen to the people of Guyana if the CCJ was to rule against the applicant tomorrow? If the CCJ was to rule against Nandalal and team tomorrow, how would this country feel? That, okay, the CCJ buckled to pressure, right? So it has placed the legal arm of any country into real challenges. It has all of a sudden thrown the judiciary into a realm that it was never thrown before. Well, maybe since Burnham time when he flew that guy over the Atlantic or wherever it was. But it has really placed the judiciary in a position that it ought not to be. And this is mastered by no other than David Granger and his political party. Now, look at it in another way, Leonard. What is the gameplay here? The gameplay is that the PNC is no longer saying they won these elections. They know they have lost and they are saying they have lost these elections. What they want is for people to say, all right, you lose the election, but continue to stay in power. Because you yourself determined that these elections were rigged. Now, which side has Lowenfield been batting for? It's APNU's side. He listened to all of APNU AFC's cries, and he decided he's going to determine what's an invalid vote. I mean, this whole thing is so one-sided, but it seems like Granger wants to continue saying, well, the people of Guyana must not have a voice. It's only what he wants, what Ramjatan wants, what Nagamutu wants, what Harman wants must matter. Nobody else, not any person in the population. It doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter at all. Only what Granger and Nagamutu wants must matter to this country. And that is where we are today.
Well,
there's no other way to put it.
Well, at a crossroads. So let us go to this letter here that was written. It's dated July the 6th. I think it was issued yesterday from the Congress of the United States, the House of Representatives in Washington. And this letter here was signed by a member of Congress, Bill, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Posey, P-O-S-E-Y. I think that, forgive me if I've gone a little wrong. And in essence, what he's saying there, to David Granger, the president, please assure Guyana the blessings of liberty and immediately provide for the orderly transition to the new and duly elected government. And if you just bear with me, Yog and people, let me just read it so we can have an understanding what is at stake here. It's coming from the Congress, and a congressman is writing U.S. There's been a couple of that over the last couple of weeks. His Excellency David Granger, President of the Republic of Guyana. My apologies here. Dear President Granger, my letter of June the 5th, 2020 made it clear that in democracies, elections belong to the people. Frustrating the outcome of the election frustrates the will of the people and erodes the quality of democracy. CARICOM observers have now confirmed the results of your nation's March 2nd elections. The will of your people has now been made evident, and the transition to the duly elected government must now begin. I urge you to declare the results of the election and to begin the process to bring the newly elected government to office. In honoring fair and democratic elections, Guyana can sustain its place in the community of American states. More importantly, you can assure the benefits of democracy and liberty to your people. Democracy and freedom together with a free enterprise economy can become the forces that build a strong nation, grow your economy, and promote the well-being of every citizen. That is what Thomas Jefferson called the blessings of liberty. Please assure Guyana the blessings of liberty and immediately provide for the orderly transition to the new and duly elected government. And this is coming from Bill Posey, member of Congress, the U.S. Congress. So very, very clearly, Yog, as to what it is. Do make all a thing, do the declaration. Now, it might be argued we don't do declaration, but you could do a couple of things here. If the U.S. is saying that you have the power within your hands, knowing, and this is to the coalition, knowing what the figures that you have, you should make the necessary arrangements for an orderly transition, for a new government to be formed, for a president to be sworn in. Very quickly, Yog, we head to the, before I come back to you on that and the implications of that. If you look at our front page of Kaichur News on Sunday, July the 5th, Granger government appoints 44 members across 5 state boards after elections. So they have continued as usual, business as usual. That is what the report is saying. Ghana sees success with local content policy done by TT Export that Ghana rejected. This is interesting because Guyana is talking about what its people can be benefiting from ExxonMobil and that big oil production operations that they have offshore Guyana. And there have been a lot of criticisms that the wide majority of Guyanese haven't been benefiting because of the bad deal that we did. And Ghana is using the same export that we rejected. 86% of upstream jobs held by Ghanaian citizens. So if you look at that and we do a comparison to Guyana, it has a very stark story. We have one of the biggest oil finds and we have one of the worst deal, that's Gildarie saying that, worst deal that you could ever come across. Woman arrested after keeping friend's baby 4 months. Well, interesting. That story has many sides here. Immense potential for Guyana's leaders to reconcile. The British High Commissioner Greg Quinn. How are you doing, Mr. Quinn? I understand that within a few weeks you're leaving Guyana after a 5-6 year tenure. He has been one in 2015, Yog, that was very vocal, would have put his shoulder to the wheels to ensure that elections was credible, free, fair, and credible, and they would have pushed that would have seen the transition from the People's Progressive Party to the coalition. 5 years later, he's still at it. He is helping, and we could go on in that. Cops impound motorcycles despite documents presented. Madness. The police got to be a little better than that. And this is an important one. Santa Rosa starts 14-day lockdown from Sunday. That's a situation that we pay very close attention. Families have been tested positive for COVID-19 there. And these are for the people who've been asking what kind of assistance is coming out from the government when it comes to COVID 19. They're saying over the weekend 1,750 vouchers distributed to COVID 19 hit families, almost more than 5,000 to be sent to the hinterlands. I think there's some cash vouchers between 20 to 30,000, I understand, is where the figures are. You should be calling the Ministry of Social Protection. I understand about 12,000 applications came in, and this is what they would be given. Where the money is coming from, they said from CDC and a couple of other places. We are going to continuously look at this situation here. Schuman's party requests removal of Lowenfield. This is one party, one of the new parties requesting the removal of Lowenfield. Cites 12 reasons in letters sent to GCOM chair. This happens over the weekend. We go to the front page quickly in Kaicho News, today's newspaper, July 7. Gazette shows NISIL manager receives state lands days after elections. Not good. This is not good at all. Conflict of interest. ExxonMobil to move ahead with forest well in Kaicho block. So this is aside from the block that they have Yog, there's another block. The oil situation, the oil concession areas are divided into blocks, and Exxon has also partnered with another set of companies that received the next block, which is Kaicho block. They have I think it's Stabrook block, I think it is. And so they go into the next block and they're going to drill the forest well in there. It's widely expect them to find oil because of the geographic and other considerations there. De facto government forges ahead with plans for new Wismar Bridge. This is up Linden. Despite, I think the story is saying, despite their statements that they are not entering any other projects or so, they are going to go ahead and hold public consultations. NISIL's forceful post-election land deals warrants full investigation. 28th Law, Chris Ram. ERC, this is very important. We should not be entering any land deals at this moment. ERC urges political parties to help reduce tension. So these are the big stories here in Kaicho. You could pick up your copy. If not, go online. Kaicho News Online. The newspaper has been selling out like crazy. That is because it has not changed its mandate. For 5 years now, we've been doing what we have to do for the people of Guyana, which is bringing the news without fear of where it's going to fall. We don't have any political parties. We don't have any horse or dog or cat in the race. That is my instruction, and that is where we will continue to do. Bring the news without any fear and favor to any political parties. And I'm sure that Yog could speak for himself. I don't want to speak for him. He's very vocal on those issues. So, Yog, that is it. Over to you, my friend.
Well, Leonard, increasingly worrying would be the revelations that are being made every day of land deals and other deals by various entities. You said there were 44 boards, members of boards across the public space that would have been or sworn in by this government, reappointed or newly appointed. But one of the things I think that is coming out with each passing day, Leonard, I think Granger and his cabal never intended to give up power. They never intended, win or lose these elections. It is increasingly clear that they never intended to give up power, because you are seeing that they continued to have everything done in terms of land deals and contracts and all kinds of appointments. They continue to do it without any regard to what the population wants and what the voters decide. These people never intended to give up power. And I tell you what, it is becoming clear to me that APNU, AFC, PNC will stay in power, and whatever is the outcome of the criminal case against Lowenfield and so forth, Granger is going to give a presidential pardon. He did it already, and he is going to do it. And I think that is what Lowenfield is riding on. And this is something that we need to ask our lawyers. And tonight, hopefully, in room 592, we are going to have that discussion. Because if this seems to be the play of the PNCR to stay in power regardless of what, it means they have promised people Do whatever it takes. We'll pardon you. Break whatever laws you have to break. We got you. We got your back, and we'll take care of you. Because Leonard, NISIL personnel knows what they ought to do and ought not to do. Don't forget, whatever contracts and whatever land deals NISIL, whatever land NISIL has given away, Winston Jordan is signing those things, and Winston Jordan knows the results of these elections. He knows they have lost these elections, so he's part of that crew that knows that they intend to stay in power regardless of what. And so one can argue all kind of things, but these are the same people who are stealing lands and stealing state assets, converting it to their own use, and stealing an election.
Mm-hmm.
So what else can you compare it with?
Let me ask you a question. Based on the knowledge that you have legally, Yog, let's assume that this case that is before the court, the private criminal cases that Lowenfield is facing right now, and likely based on what we hear, and there's going to be other charges against him. Could the president stop it halfway and pardon him, or he has to wait?
No, well, there is nothing to pardon unless he's found guilty of something.
Right.
And, at that stage, yes, at that stage, then a pardon would be given, because I think this is what, becoming clear as day now, what else is happening. So these are some of the things that we got to continue looking at, Leonard, and this is why persons within the cabal continue to act without any concerns about the repercussions. There'll be none. I think they're promised there'll be none.
No, but if you're out of government and Granger's out of government, let's say that, could the pardon be done
No.
If
they're out of government, then they, I would certainly hope that whoever is the new president, we know that Irfan Ali has won these elections. And when he's sworn in, one would certainly hope that he does not abuse his presidential power to give pardon to any criminals, especially stealing an election. How, as I said earlier, how big can it get? How worse can it get? You literally have stolen billions of dollars from our children, from our future, by doing all what you're doing. And Leonard, on the other side, while we are still awaiting the detailed report, and the report will be out one day, we know that a massive sum of money would have been paid for the NCM case. And another massive sum of money is being paid for the current case in front of the CCJ. And so who's footing these bills? We got to ask that.
Well, yes, obviously, because I cannot come out of the public offers. What is also important, Yog, is that we have to look back at this COVID-19. We switch in here very quickly. This COVID-19 set of cases that we have. This morning, like so many morning coming to work, it seems it's getting worse on the road. It is business. We back to before March, pre-March 2020, when everything was going as normal and the country was doing what it's supposed to be doing. People, I see even in the official orders by the Ministry of Health, that even places like salons and barbershops, they're open for business as normal. If you want to get up close and personal with somebody, there's no closer way to do it than being in a barbershop. Somebody breathing down on your head, doing what they have to do. Salons are almost the same thing. It's a one-on-one contact that you need those kind of services. So when you open that and you continue to insist that we close our businesses at the detriment to the economy, then you have some issues. So we have to pay attention. Looking at today's figures that we are looking around the world, the Guyana situation, 278 cases. Over the weekend, we saw a sharp rise also. 3 deaths over the last week or so, too, if you're looking from day to day. So we're now at about 16. Of course, the family of the latest person is claiming that she fell down a step, and so we're trying to get a confirmation from that, Yog. But Guyana, 278 cases, 16 deaths according to official figures. That's what the government is saying, although one is in dispute as to what really, if that death is to be blamed on COVID-19. The U.S. is continuing to lead the way with almost 3 million cases with 132,000 deaths. Brazil follows closely, which is the one that we're paying attention to and that we should be very, very worried about. It's 1.6 million cases and 65,631 deaths. That's a good proportion of when you're looking at it. India is 720,000, and it's 20,000 deaths that they have so far. So that is where we stand in. People, please be very, very careful. The doctors at the hospital, we running short of doctors. All of the Ministry of Health is not going to come out and say that. I've been in contact with the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, and she is preparing yoga maybe sometime this week here, maybe not tomorrow, maybe as early as Thursday, to come on the program with our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Shamdeo Prasad, to warn again. You remember it's the same Dr. Shamdeo Prasad last week would have warned people about the carefree, the cavalier attitude when it comes to COVID-19. What we would have feared, what we would have predicted based on what we were seeing, Yog, is coming to pass, and that the number of cases are rising. Somebody might very well argue that's because we're doing more testing at the moment, but there's also in some areas there's a sharp spike in some areas, and so a lot of it could be blamed based on the circumstances, on people not paying attention, people going about the business without taking the necessary precautions. So we have to continuously beg our people to please, the longer that we take to bring this under control, the longer our country is going to take to have some kind of orderly reopening or phased reopening of the country. It's going to take longer. So we might be wanting to hold a barbecue now or go to a dance right now. We have to push it back. We have to be disciplined in this entire thing, because it's not going to be finished in a hurry. We have to be very, very disciplined, Yog. I'm really, really sorry, because many people go home to the family, little young ones, without a care. They believe that it's going to happen to Yog Mahadeo and Gildarie and not them. Well, it could happen just by a whiff of somebody passing next to you and you breathe it in. So let us be very, very careful about that. So Yog, before we head to the lines, is there anything that we would have missed?
Well, Leonard, it's important to restate some of the facts here, because I see some people being very abusive on our chat site here, and so people are cursing, and I would want to suggest, Mr. Archer, you don't belong where decent people reside, and you should be gone. If not, we're going to block you, because we're not tolerating any cursing and abuses, as well as Tyson. So please, if you have nothing to add to our discussion, you could go where you would prefer to hear the things you want to hear. However, here, let's just restate a couple of things, Leonard. The PPP is in opposition. They're not the ones signing away the land deal. So obviously people like Archer and Tyson and them all seem to be getting some of the land and getting some of this money, and this is why they're being abusive here. It is only those who can get something out of this pack of persons that is stealing power that would want to back them and to want to stay there. It got to be that they are part of the problem, Leonard. And if you want, it's like 2015. I remember, Leonard, you guys, Kaichunis, remember the problems you went through when you were being attacked? You were being attacked by everybody. Why are you criticizing Jagde? Why are you criticizing the PPP? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then the same Reverend Archer and everybody loved us because we were then coming out against the PPP. But now because you're talking against Granger, it seems like you must only talk about wrong when it happens on one side. Mr. Archer, stop drinking the Kool-Aid. And people need to realize, if anybody has rigged these elections, I want to join them, and let us go to the court with an elections petition, and let the court adjudicate, and let the court declare that there needs to be fresh elections in this country. It is not within the ambit of law and field's list of duties to, one, take instructions from politicians, two, to decide that because APNO AFC said somebody's vote is bad, it is bad, and three, for Lowenfield to just burn away 116,000 ballots. That cannot be, and we must not allow it to be. Anybody who backs such a ridiculous nonsense, they don't have a brain, maybe. They cannot think well, and they're so inundated with that beverage, with that Kool-Aid, that it makes no sense to them. Now, the same persons, as I said before, Leonard, were embracing the CCJ when the CCJ ruled against the third term. Then the CCJ was so close to them. But now the CCJ is their enemy. When Kaichel News and Yog Mahadeo and everybody else was speaking against corruption pre-2015, you were being embraced. Now you're public enemy number one for speaking out. Wrong is wrong. Whether APNU do it, whether Granger do it, whether JAG, anybody who do wrong, as Mia Motley says, the truth hurts. And the truth obviously is hurting the PNC at this stage, Leonard. The problem we have in Guyana, and this is the bottom line, the PPP, APNU, AFC, none of them own Guyana. And they, Granger has to stop behaving like he's the owner of everything as here as well. The Guyanese people are the people who will exercise the vote over Guyana, not any particular cabal. That has happened on March 2nd. The second thing that we got to know in this space here is the CCJ has a decision to make tomorrow, and I think tomorrow Kaicho Radio is going to carry it live.
Yes, absolutely.
Thirdly, whatever is the decision from CCJ, it does not change Lowenfield's blatant attempt at rigging these elections. And if he can't change, then God help us all, because this country, Guyanese need to start asking themselves, what is the future we have for this country? What is the future we see for our children here? If one set of politicians have lost power and they refuse to give up power, Leonard, what are you telling your teenage daughter? What am I telling my teenage son? What are we telling our children? What does this country have for us if the politicians cannot respect the will of the electorate? And that is probably the bigger question and the discussion we need to start having, Leonard.
Absolutely, and the will of the electorate. And so we go very quickly. 2267453, 2267453. We're going to close at 3 o'clock on the dot because we want to do some major upgrades that has been kept back. 2267453, and you could also WhatsApp your comments to 6222222, and let us try to read them. Here's one for you, Yog, right away. Mr. Yog, Dr. Irfan Ali said he would not go to any witch hunt, but he's got to forget that and sift out the corrupt person in every department, charge them, seize the assets, and press strongly for prison sentences. Your thoughts on that, Yog? You there, Yog? So in the meantime, while we...
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
There is a great difference between what is witch hunt and rooting out corruption. When the topic of witch hunt is being discussed, Irfan Ali or any politician would tell you that they are not going to take action against somebody because of their political leaning. In other words, I would certainly hope that Irfan Ali, when he takes over the helm of, when he takes in, swears in as a president, he is not going to come after Yog Mahadeo or come after you because of your political leanings. But if you have done wrong, if you have been corrupt, if you are thwarting the will of the electorate, that is not witch hunt. That has to be adjudicated in the court of law. So it's two different things, and I would certainly back that caller in terms of wanting to discern what is the difference, Leonard, and want to assure that caller that the difference is stark, and no political party would want to ever be in a position where they will witch hunt and get to people because of their political leanings. But where corruption is concerned, any government would want to ensure you let them have their day in court.
Thank you very much, Yog. And as we on that, I think there's a call online. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, we calling from Essequibo Hema. We having a problem.
Yes.
Is that none of the hospital in Essequibo Coast have no insulin allocated in this COVID people like the diabetic people gone there now.
Which
None of the
hospital? Which
hospital.
you talking about? Saudi and every one of them?
Yeah. There is no insulin for the diabetic people. No insulin. $4,000 for one at the pharmacy.
Uh-huh.
4,000 for one at the pharmacy. None of the hospital got no insulin.
And normally you would get that free.
But you get it free at the hospital. But how much people gonna able to buy?
Right. All right, we're gonna raise this and we're gonna see if there's a comment we could probably tell you on here.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you very much, dear sir. And so, if you're now joining us, this is COVID-19 Elections Watch here on Kaito Radio 99.1, 99.5. You could also get us on, I think it is YouTube as well as Facebook. Please go online, Kaito News Online, and you could click us Together Radio there. With regards to YouTube, I'm being told that you just click on the subscribe button, and so you can have notifications whenever we on air with that, or we coming to you live. So that is with regards to that. With regards to the callers with Saudi Hospital and the one in that Scribble Coast, we're going to raise this with the Ministry of Health and give an update to whether there is a shortage or whether somebody playing games over there. Yog, good afternoon. Please don't call. I feel both parties try to rig this election, and until both parties can agree to that, then we can move forward. Every time they do, recount are different figures for the APNO FC party, and they keep saying they won the elections. If they won the election, it should be one figure all at one time. Am I making sense? So it is a comment coming there. Let me see if there's another one. Is another caller online? Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
This is the speaker.
Yes, this is Kaicho Radio. You're on air.
Okay, yes, sir. Here what happened with this election, as far as I listen to it every day, right?
Yes, sir.
A government can move, although you never move. The only the people in this country, all two race, come together and protest against the government. That only can make a real matter.
Could you lower your volume on the radio, please?
Yes, below.
Sorry about that. We have to. If you're calling us in, please lower your volume on your radio. It's going to send feedback into our radio. Our apologies about that, Joe.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, as a Mr. Just now, that is the only remedy if region come out of government. The two nations got to go and protest against them. That only can move on if you don't come out. Because as I read Kaichur news every day, it's not like you don't want to come out of government. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear caller. There is a message coming in here, Yog, on the WhatsApp 6222222. I strongly believe that if Mr. Granger decides to stay in power, the 233,000 odd people should vote to make Guyana ungovernable. Yog, I don't even want to comment on this. Maybe you want to throw some comments here.
Well, Leonard, what is the greater harm that is being done presently? The greater harm that is being done presently is that persons are listening to their political leaders and are making all kinds of irresponsible statements. I mean, you look at Archer's statement on our page here, you look at some of the persons who are out there fighting, and they're fighting for what? And if you ask them what they're fighting for, they don't know. All they're going to say, rig. Well, Granger himself doesn't like the word rig. So, I mean, I want to just put this in perspective. When we talk about a Guyana now, what are we talking about? When we talk about a future, what are we talking about? Because here we are seeing a handful of persons that wants to ensure that whatever they want, only what they want must happen. It doesn't matter who else. It doesn't matter what Kaicher News think or Stabrook News think, or it doesn't matter what the business sector think or anybody. There is a baby. His name is I don't want to call his name. It's a spoiled baby. He's crying every day. I want to stay in power. I want to stay in power. I want to stay in power. And everybody has to shut up and put a pamper and put milk and put everything for that baby to stay in power. Because it doesn't matter what is right. It doesn't matter what is wrong. What the baby wants, the baby's going to cry and cry and cry until he gets what he wants. And that's what we have. We have some babyish minds here. They're not thinking logic. They're not thinking about the future of this country. They're not thinking that as a people we have to live together, Leonard. You and I have to live together. Our neighbors and families got to live together. Granger them live in their state-paid premises, and they don't go and meet people. Look, they've set people to protest all over the place, right? And I find some ridiculous placards like, CCJ, should respect Guyana's constitution. Well, Granger doesn't respect Guyana's constitution. He has sleepwalked this country into a constitutional nightmare over and over and over again. But, it's like, it's simply that. It's only what Granger wants. Nobody else what they want must matter in this country. The fact that caller calls us now, Leonard, to say there is no insulin in the public hospital in Essequibo. The fact that we have had calls 2 weeks ago from Skellen, where a caller called in and said, if you want to die, you go to Skellen. People are sick and they're dying over there, all around this country. You're not hearing a word about health care or anything. All you're hearing about, they're thieving lands, stealing state assets, insist on staying in power, paying $1 million for people to go fight a case at CEJ, giving Lowenfield all kind of security covers, doing all kinds of things, except looking after the sick, the hungry, dying. That is what they are doing. What message does it send to our children? And still, Granger has to be the most honest man in this world. He doesn't do any wrong. He doesn't think any wrong. Well, God forbid. If that is what good is, then the definition of good has really changed.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Can you advise if GCOM can deliver result without Lowenfield? We are going to be very cautious. I would ask Yog to comment on it. We're going to be cautious. We don't want to rile up anybody as to what the CCJ is going to be deciding. What we could tell you is that there are several options. We could probably discuss options as to where, let's say, CCJ go this, what are some of the options that could happen. Maybe Yogi would want to delve into that, or do we wait until Room 592 this evening?
Well, it's an interesting question.
Yes.
And there are ways that certainly the GCOM being held at ransom by the PNC through Lowenfield, it can be taken care of. At the end of the day, Madam Claudia Singh knows the Constitution and knows all the election laws like the back of her hand. She knows it all. She's allowing everybody to play out, all the babies to cry and scream and play out how they want. And then maybe, mommy, I'm not saying this in any derogatory way, but then as a mother, she will have to step in and do her motherly job. But aside from jokes, Leonard, there are remedies, there are things that can be done. And Lowenfield cannot hold this country up at ransom. So tonight in Room 592, we're going to have two of our legal experts to talk about some of these things, to talk about what are the possibilities and to discuss tomorrow's case. If it goes one way, what will happen? If it goes the other way, what's going to happen? And to assess what we can prepare for regardless of how the case goes tomorrow. But certainly, I would say yes. The short answer is yes, that there are ways and means legally, constitutionally, that Lowenfield does not have to hold up this country at ransom. We can move beyond this.
Absolutely. Is there any way we could find out if the president have dual citizenship? Because the other night, Freddie Kissoon suggested something like that. I would have had the First Lady Sandra Granger on one of the programs here, and I did ask her that. I asked her whether she's aware, and she said pointedly no. that she's not aware that David Granger, as the president, has citizenship with the United States. Why that came up? Because you remember that I think it's that folio, that special document that was prepared by the Ministry of the Presidency. I think it named the president as well as Harmon. This is Colonel Joseph Harmon as United States president, and the First Lady would have said no, appointed no. So I'm not sure. That's something we would probably have to ask or find some way of asking the U.S. I'm not sure if they would want to discuss that. They protect their citizens, and if you ask, you might not get an answer. But something to really disclose. It has never come up until we saw that document, and of course, the question was asked to the First Lady, and she says no. Maybe Yog, I'm not sure if you have another side to that.
Well, Leonard, the truth is that we do know that persons who served in the National Assembly from all sides of the political divide, they were dual citizens, and they took an oath, and they breached every conceivable moral ground by swearing on an affidavit and still entering Parliament as a dual citizen. And, I don't think we should forget these things for a long time. I don't care which side of the political fence they're on. Wrong is wrong, and that was wrong. And it is until the citizens of this country started to point it out, that's when people became aware that they were sitting in the National Assembly while earning their keep overseas. And, Leonard, those are the kind of things we'll have to continue to assess. Granger's dual citizenship, I wouldn't even comment on it. I think this country has gone through enough impasse. Freddie Kissoon would have had reasons to say what he said. I don't find it as a point to argue with Kissoon's logic. He knows why he has said what he has said, and I leave it as is. It's up to Granger or Harmon. Harmon was on that document too as having dual citizenship. It's up to them to prove or disprove it. What we do know is that the people of this country have to remember these things and remember them for a long time to come.
Absolutely. Leonard, if the APNU stay in office, the U.S. sanction will be in effect. That means that Guyana will be worse than Haiti. That's a comment coming from one of our viewers. Thank you very, very much for that, viewer, listener. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, as a couple of points, as I did vouchers that the government delivered to the people. One of the hiccups is when the people call in the supermarkets, as they have the voucher in their hand, the supermarket saying they're waiting for someone who came from the ministry. So that is one of the hiccups, and I don't understand that. But as it relates to this whole thing with PCJ and everything, one of the things that I am certain about, and it keeps freaking me out, how the GCOM keeps waiting to hear what the court has to do before they start doing what they have to do. So let's say the court reads where says do X, Y tomorrow, then you got to wait 2-3 days for the court they catch up. When GCOM should be doing their job. And one part of the job is that they need to be dealing with the issue of low and feel and those 115,000 votes before the court even make a decision on anything valid or invalid. They need to pronounce on it. The chairman has supposed to have said something. Because this is GCOM. GCOM is a constitutional body which has its right to do its job. And they know what valid and credible means when we might be speculating what the court is going to say. And when it comes to that, I'm sad to see that GCOM keeps waiting consistently for the court to do X before it starts doing what it has to do. And that is the problem we have. As it relates to the government of the day, one of the things about it is that many people in support of this government are happy with an image that they have, a perception that they have of a leader and a family and a husband and a wife and this perception of integrity and honesty, of which they are not certain of the PVP. I'm not justifying what they're doing. I'm saying so people will fight tooth and nail at the end of the day to keep this type of image in power because this represents them and gives them a better sense of themselves as opposed to what the PVP did on this power. I know we will have some disagreements on that, but psychologically, that's what the fight is about. Have a good day, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And before I hand over to Yog, a question for us here, a viewer from a call from a viewer. Did the U.S. revoke any visas yet? We can say that over the weekend, lots of rumors were flying around that Walter Lawrence and so lost her visa. We can say that we did try to reach out to the authorities, the U.S. and the Britain and British representatives and everybody. They're very careful how they're dealing with this entire issue. It's a very sensitive thing. They're not making a lot of statements right now. That is because they're watching to see this very critical statement that is going to be the decision that is going to be issued by the Caribbean Court of Justice. What I was told is that a delegation from the ABC and EU country, Yog, that they're supposed to be meeting with representatives of the coalition maybe as early as today to implore, to indicate to them what the stance of the ABC and EU countries. So we are waiting. Maybe there's going to be a statement coming out a little later with regards to that. But as of now, what we're very clear of is that the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has instructed his department, his State Department, which is the one that oversees other country, that has relations with the U.S. To start moving to find those people who might be derailing Guyana's democracy and to probably take actions against them. That's what we do know. As we speak here, other countries, a number of other countries are also looking to see what could happen. Let's look at some of the sanctions or some of the things very quickly, Yog. Canada buys our gold. Canada buys our gold from Guyana, I think is the Royal Canadian Mint. I have to check it back. I think that's it. Royal Canadian Mint. They buy our gold. Let's say worst case scenario, gold is one of the things that has been keeping us afloat kind of right through this COVID. A lot of mining operations still in place, and they have their gold when it comes in. It would be a nightmare for us if the Royal Canadian Mint stopped buying because of something that's going to happen. We've already discussed that any sanctions is going to be in a phased manner. I'm not sure how that's going to work with Canada or so. This is uncharted water. What we do know is that there's some very serious intent coming from the Western countries, that the ABC and the EU country, America, Britain, Canada, and the European Union countries. So they have been sending their messages very, very clearly. So Yog, maybe some comments there?
Yes, Leonard. And look, what we do know is that this would have been July 2nd, 2020, a matter of days ago, that the UK High Court blocked the Maduro government from receiving the proceeds of its gold, of Venezuelan gold.
Oh, yes.
So you are right. We can sell, but whether we'll get the money is just like the oil money that's locked up over there. Leonard, there are some other paradigms that we need to quickly look at as well, and we'll certainly continue looking at it on this program as well as on the Room 592. Jillian Lewis, one of our viewers online. Jillian, I want to commend you. Jillian has said something that is profound. Jillian said, Lowenfield works for GCOM, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. That is a very profound statement, Jillian, and you need to say it, and we all need to say it over and over. Lowenfield works for GCOM, not GCOM working for Lowenfield. And she's also right when she has said that really tomorrow, next day, the other day, it all comes down to Claudette Singh having the final word. Congrats, my sister Jillian. Well said. There is another side to this, Leonard. And another one of our viewers has sent in this comment, which I want to congratulate Gopal Ramutar on as well. He has said that all of this protest that is going on against the CCJ and all of this money that's being paid for people to picket and do all of this thing out there, what happens if the CCJ agrees with the Court of Appeal? Mm-hmm. Then what would you say? How do you know that the CCJ will make a decision one way or another? So this, my point in raising what this viewer has said is that one of the good things that's been happening across this country is it really doesn't matter to what Granger is saying. It really doesn't matter what Jagdev is saying. People in this country are seeing for themselves, thinking for themselves, and coming up with their decisions. So it doesn't matter how much Granger wants to beat us on the head to say, whatever he is saying, we know the truth. It no matter that Archer came here and cursed us up, or people are calling out Kaichur News and calling out this and people know the truth, whether we say it or not. What happens here now is that as a people, we got to band together. Because if the truth does not matter to a handful of people, we now need to assess, how do we get them to heed the truth? And what you said there is absolutely spot on, Leonard. And that is, the international firms, the international organizations, and the world at large is going to help us with this. You and I know I have done it. I've written to any number of Congress people. I've written to politicians in Sweden, in the European Union, in UK, US, all over. Look, Canada has paid a lot of money towards these elections, right? Canada has done a lot. All of a sudden, Granger is telling Canada, we don't want you to have an opinion of our elections, except if you agree that we must stay in power. They're telling CARICOM, Granger invited CARICOM to come and have a look at these elections. He is now telling CARICOM, keep out of our business unless you say I must stay in power. Mm-hmm. The Americans are coming in and making their statement. He's telling them, stay out of our business unless you feel that I must stay in power. So they only want to hear the world say, stay in power, baby. Stay in power. You cry too much, we're going to give you the power, which is what you want. Stay in power. Unless and until they are not going to accept it. So Leonard, as I said before, I'm repeating it again. Guyanese have to now start to think. Mm-hmm. Here is it. If APNU stays in power, Leonard, if Granger stays in power, when will there ever be another elections that we can all feel comfortable at voting in? Mm-hmm. When will they have controlled GCOM, they have bought out Lowenfield, they have bought out everybody in this process. When is it that Guyanese will ever feel comfortable going to the polls again? It means this man wants to stay president for life, and whenever God is ready for him, whoever takes his place is going to stay president for life. And you know what? The electorate will never have another say in the politics of this country. That is the bottom line for this current stance of APNU AFC. That is the bottom line. You tell me, Leonard, when are we ever going to have another elections if the PNC stay in power? It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so while that is happening, Yog, we have another text here. Good day, Mr. Gildarie, Dr. Yog. You need to call out the Amerindian vice chairman for the National Tushao Council and organizers to speak out their voice with regards to our elections. And this is coming from a former Tushao of the St. Cuthbert's village. As we in that, we want to say hello to the St. Cuthbert's village. We want to say hello to the Blackbush Pole people in Berbice quarantine, all across Berbice. I want to say hello to you if you're now joining us, and to the pastor and his family who've been there whenever antenna goes down in Berbice there. Thank you very much. Esquimalt Coast, how are you doing? Canada, New York, all across the U.S. I think Europe too has been very, very, very good to us. Yog, they've been day in, day out, and there's a lady from Linden too who's been in with us. She says hello to you, Yog. Day in, day out. There's a call online. Yes, good afternoon, call. I think you missed that. We missed that, Yog. In the meantime, Yog, so tomorrow that very important case, the ruling is going to be here. It is going to be, do we have an idea what time it's going to start or what time the decision is supposed to
I
be?
think I think at three in the afternoon. I think I'll confirm that in a minute, but so far I think it's at 3 in the afternoon. So we can probably have our chat leading up to that, and we can break off when that starts. Leonard, there's another critical element here. Look, I have heard one of the PNC operative on another broadcast telling people that the rig, and he obviously knew what he was talking about. He said the rig started since this house-to-house registration was opposed in court. Leonard, let us get some facts in order. Granger unilaterally appointed Patterson. I've said it 100 times. I'm going to say it one more time. Can you imagine if Patterson was today the chairman of GCOM? The rig would have been perfectly completed. They planned this for many, many years. It has been in play, and they have had all their persons set up in various positions. It was Patterson that appointed persons. It was Patterson that set up a lot of the things that I hate to use the word, but the poor chairman, the current chairman, had to step into a minefield that was built by the PNC and shaped by the PNC to be what it is. These people, Leonard, instead of using their 5 years in government to do good for the people, to win people's vote by doing things for the people, they spend their 5 years thinking about how they will rig this election. And you are seeing it. I keep repeating it. They have planned this rig for a long time. Freddie Kisoon on our program last week, he said it in his own way, that this thing was in the works for a long time, and it continues to be. Leonard, currently, APNU AFC people are saying that if they can't have their way, it's either their way or the highway. So I think as a people now, we got to look at what's happening. It's obvious that the APNU AFC have lost these elections. It's obvious that the PPP lost the 2015 elections. So we have two governments that has lost one election after the other. We're going to create a new government. By APNU doing what they're doing, Leonard, they're not even making themselves electable in the 2025 elections. What kind of face are they going to have as an opposition? We need a good opposition. We need the PNC to get back into the space where it could approach the electorate again in 2025. I spoke out against the PPP in 2014, 2015 for corruption. So what it means is that you can only, and this is what APNU wants us to do, you must only badmouth the PPP, you must only badmouth the PPP, because whatever nonsense APNU doing, it's sanctimoniously good. You must close your eyes, because they are bullies and babies that must have their way. Wrong is wrong. I don't care who does it. You cannot want to rape the entire electorate of this country and still think that, God sent you for this purpose, and even abuse the name of God in that space. I am sorry, Leonard. Sorry to be emotional about it, but this has gone on too long. And too much is happening, and people don't have medicines and food out there, man. We don't have medicines and food, and a handful of persons. The politicians are there continue to earn their salaries.
Absolutely. And so you talk about medicine there. There's a text from one of our people here. Went to the Melanie Health Clinic today, and no medical except a captopril for pressure. Captopril for pressure. That's what the only thing they could have gotten to the thing. I think we'd have to ask our health people what is going on here. Too many complaints coming in. There's a caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You're on here.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to Dr. Yog Mahadeo and both of you.
Yes.
My point is that for all this skullduggery we go on, I think if the army stand up for their right, we can get clear justice in Guyana and things can go free, because they are the one who run in this country at this strong moment. Is that so? Good. One next thing, look at this part what they do with this boy. the racist thing what I had on the internet the other day. With a guy from Critic.
Uh-huh.
They're talking about them making comments about Critic statement that he made. Yes, Critic made some reckless statement. Look at the way how them got our cricket, and then they carry the man to court after all. Why they well go in front of the man house and cause them down? Why is them a protest? And still they take legal action against to court to make apology.
Not to the court, was to the ERC, the Ethnic Relations Commission.
Okay, they still came to the ERC for make apology.
Right.
Right? But then I look at the part when the one black guy make all the comments and cause down the map ahead to two.
Mm-hmm.
Then I look at that part.
Yes. All right.
Okay, I go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. Some very important points. As an analyst, I'm not sure whether I'm an analyst. I'm a facilitator. As an analyst, what are your views on those two Court of Appeal judges who ruled in the coalition's favors? And I presume this is a Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal judges who ruled in the coalition's favor. Yog, maybe I could wade in, and then you could step in. I think it's good for the country when you have Court of Appeal dissenting views. I think the problem that we had, and I think one lawyer was on our program, is when if you decided to step out of the box and you rule something that's totally not that's before you rule out of that, then it allows certain things to happen. So in this particular case, when you analyze some of the decisions based on the explanations that were given at the Court of Appeal, it baffles the mind. But the case is before the Caribbean Court of Justice at the moment. But it would baffle the mind as to why a particular direction would have taken. One lawyer did say that he was baffled too because of the explanations that were given. Yog?
I would. The court have their own way of looking at things. I would not want to comment on the court. I have my own view, and that shall be personal at this stage. The courts certainly are independent. The appointment of persons to the courts and so forth are an independent process. And generally, one would remember that Granger had disagreed with the CCJ upon the appointment of Patterson. So the court continues to remain independent. And, always, whatever the court rules, Leonard, there are people who are on the losing side that are going to disagree. The problem we have in this country is that APNU AFC is not going to accept something that goes against them. Everybody else does. Leonard, here is the ridiculousness to which we have descended as a country. We had to go to the CJ to decide that 33 was the greater part of 65, that 33 was greater than 32. We had to go to the CCJ for that. This same government that could not have, and if you remember how they attacked the CCJ then, because they said the CCJ made a decision that was not in light of what they wanted. It's all about what they want, it's always about what Granger and his cabal wants. The issue we have here, Leonard, and Guyanese need to ask themselves, and hopefully we'll continue this conversation in room 592, if and when, not if, when the Madam Chair makes a declaration that is not in favor of Granger and his cabal, are they going to accept then? If they're not accepting anything, Leonard, the world is presently warning us. The world is laughing at us. The youngsters, the young people in PNC are listening and drinking the Kool-Aid and going out there and representing, for God's sake, I don't know what. How can you say that because Harman says this vote is not valid, Harman is no, that is godly, and that has to be so. That is law because he said so. People are laughing at this country. Where do we go from here? What happens if Granger does not accept Because here is a man. A year ago, he said, whatever, I'm what? What was the word he said? I will abide with the 4 C's. Well, he probably meant SEAS, right? Because certainly he hasn't abided by the court. His party has thrown every challenge to the Constitution that you could think possible. And the only thing they want as a result is, okay, bully, okay, baby, you won. Because anything else they're not going to give up. So the question that we have to assess in room 592 over the next couple of days is, what next? Where do we go from here? Look, Leonard, let me just say this. PPP was corrupt. They went through a lot of things. They lost power. They are in opposition. APNU AFC was corrupt from day one. The first thing they did when they took power is to increase their own salaries. What could be more wrong, morally outrageous than that? The first thing this set of uncaring people did was to increase their own salaries. And what, when you question, you remember those words? When Harman was questioned, where he said, I have no apologies to make. That was Harman's words. Arrogance. No. They did everything. They lost power. They don't want to give up power. Supposing when the PPP comes in power now, Leonard, the PPP say, well, we're going to never give up power because if they could do it, we can do it. Where does it leave the people of this country? We got to continue to go hustle to get visas and leave because a handful of people decided, no, we are going to stay here and ensure that law and order is followed by everyone. This is not the 1980s anymore. This is the time when the politicians has to abide by the will of the electorate. Leonard, what worries me is the question we asked the other night in room 592. And that is Granger really in control of his party anymore? Because it seems like the tail is wagging the animal, right? The tail is doing the wagging here. The animal is being wagged by the tail and not the other around. So it's a lot of things we got to question and a lot of things we got to continue to analyze. But Leonard, I'll say this. The new star of the show, this show has had many stars. Unfortunately, you know, in movies, you have what is called the crooks and the good boys and the star boys and star girls. Well, unfortunately, Mingo's infamy has faded and has been taken over by the new, call it star, call it crook, whatever you want, taken over by Lowenfield. Who knows what other plays Lowenfield has up his sleeve? I don't think this is finished as yet.
Well, let's see where it goes from there. Good afternoon, Mr. Kisoon needs to be back in room 592. Yes, he is going to be back in a couple of days. We were working on that. You know, he is who he is, and so we always glad to have him. Hi guys, it's me again, Richard Aklu. I'm in London. Can a Guyanese citizen or someone from the PPPC party find out from the American ambassador if persons in the APNU FC coalition are U.S. citizens? I'm not sure. Anybody could probably try to find out that. So whether they get anyway, that's the other question. I'm a loyal listener to your programs, but today Mr. Young made me laugh when he said that the baby cried, hold on to power. Yog is very true. I was wondering how you came to that analogy. Guys, don't answer. Guys,
you don't want to know.
No. Guys, it was the PPP in there and the PNC win this election. It would be big war. When the fox can't get a grape, them say it's sour. Good point. Whenever the shoe fits. Let me see. Hi, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. I'm just leaving. Let me just make sure. It looks pretty long. Hi, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. I'm just leaving this message right here, hoping that you let the public know what's going on. Firstly, don't mention my name because I'm afraid of being transferred, losing my job. I'm working at the RDC Region 2. During the election period, we never experienced anything, and this is frustrating and depressing. The REO has been pressuring us badly. Like the only option left for us is to quit. He's transferring so much onto us recently. The issue is that Mr. Something put on Facebook a while ago, but the fuel that the government took from campaign in Pomeroon, because of that, he transferred the pump attendant to another location on the Essequibo coast. Due to COVID, the passenger fare is double here, and it's very hard for the guy because the salary isn't big and he has a family to take care of. Another issue, this gentleman here is a pervert. In a sense, he's kind of threatening people to get his way. Note it didn't happen to me, but the co-workers have been speaking on their behalf. The entire administration knows what he's capable of. He's harassing and embarrassing employees if they refuse to be with him. These women are afraid to speak because of the senior management don't stand up to junior employees. They're afraid of being transferred. Yesterday, there was a meeting in the boardroom. Knowing COVID is a pandemic, everyone was clustered without masks, almost 50% of the employees, because we didn't have a choice but to attend. It's not safe for us, but we don't have a choice since he's power drunk. In the meeting, he embarrassed employees so much, and when his party people is to blame for the issue, he's always laughing, skin teeth people refer to us. He's being unfair to us. I don't want to say in details before he figures. All this is frustrating, it can lead to depression. I've seen it. Employees are afraid to go to work every day. We're worried. Kindly put this over to the message in a small nutshell. I want to do this a long time, but I'm afraid people will expose me. But since I heard the program, I got the courage to. Thank you very much to that resident who is not unafraid of voicing what she sees or he sees as discrimination. And I'm sure that Yog, in wrapping up, is going to deal with that. Good afternoon, my brothers. Keep up the good work. From my point of view, I think GCOM is responsible for the missing documents in the ballot boxes, and no one is making an attempt to get them involved to take them to court. They're blaming the PPP, but the GCOM was involved in the elections. I enjoyed the program. I've learned a lot history. Keep up the good work that you're doing. There's a caller. We take about 2 calls, Yog, and then I hand you over to wrap up. Our apologies. Let me see if there's another thing that I could read. Good day, Mr. Yog and Gildarie. Thank you for the wonderful. I ask God to bless you. Thank you very much, dear. We thank you for keeping us in thoughts. We will continue to do our stuff, although Yoga is a hard taskmaster. Good afternoon, guys. I think the coalition is prepared to lose the election and rig it at the same time because they strategically placed people in various positions and had the backup plans. And yes, they're behaving like a child whose candy was taken away from them. And so that is what is coming so far. Good afternoon, gentlemen. The Border Constitution is in full swing, and hence Granger is using the Constitution to the letter of the law. Freddie has said that Granger was indoctrinating people and soldiers up into Mary. So Granger has entrenched himself as the executive president. And there's a call online. So Yog, I hand it over to you very quickly.
The last time this happened, Leonard, was in the 1980s. When Burnham decided he wanted to be president for life, he created the constitution to ensure that he remains executive president for life. He wasn't going to give up power at all. So we have a similar situation here where Granger and his cabal certainly feels they want to remain in power regardless of what the electorate wants. You recall that 1978, I think that referendum was itself rigged. 1985 elections was rigged. All the elections from Burnham days, 1964 right down to 1985, would have been rigged. Now, we have this situation where presently everybody fought long and hard to have free and fair elections in this country. Leonard, now you have this situation where there has been free and fair elections. The amount of checks and balances in place has been approved and certified by every single person. They APNU AFC going back on their own words, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a set of people going back on their own words, lying on themselves. Granger himself said publicly, I have never seen the SOPs. Boo-hoo-hoo. I've never seen the SOPs. I saw a spreadsheet. So cry about that. You are the president. You see the whole world around you is in a turmoil because of SOPs, and you are the executive, the chief executive of this country, and you would not say, bring those documents and let me see what is really going on? No. So this is why I've asked the questions, who's really Is the tail wagging the animal? Is the tail in charge? Is the cart before the horse? Because it seems certainly like he is not in control of things. Although Freddie disagrees with this theory, and we'll certainly engage him again with it. But Leonard, the other thing we need to quickly assess is the truth is that the CCJ's case does not matter to these elections, whether it is only valid votes that must matter, and APNO AFC must realize that the way out of this is to go, look, I'm it's frustrating. Their lawyers, Leonard, could not give one case as an example, not one precedence as an example to the CCJ. All the cases they use are cases that are filed after the swearing in. But today we have WPA, once the party of Walter Rodney, AFC, the PNC, WPA and AFC has allowed the PNC to create a revolution, a coup on the political front of Guyana, and the WPA has itself turned around and killed the memory of Walter Rodney and are rigging these elections along with the AFC. There is no remorse. There is nothing sadder. There is nothing more sad in this world than to see men and women, instead of reaching an old age where you could turn to God, you have reached an old age where you're blaspheming God's name and stealing the will of the people at every opportunity that you had. The same set of people who killed that man, Walter Rodney, has now turned around and killed him again and killed his revolutionary ideas finally. Leonard, this thing, maybe a day next week, I want to see what this week has. A day next week, we'll have to broach the topic of where does Guyana go from here? Because obviously, this is not what Guyana has to be and cannot be.
I thank you very much for that, Yog. And as we come to wrap-up time, I'll read one last message. Hello, Dr. Yog. I think you guys helped the APNU government to get into power. Now you guys can't handle it. I think you guys are learning a lesson. So next time, you'll never do that again. I will answer that in a very short while. Yog, in your wrap-up, before I answer, you could tell us a little about room 592. The person who would have sent this text, let me just repeat what I've been saying. It has been 4 months since we've been on this program, Elections Watch, COVID-19, and I wanted to say to you very, very clearly that Kaicho News, which I've been working for more than almost a decade and a half, they have no horse in the race. They don't have any political party that is standing there. We have reported the facts. We will continue to investigate and report them. So thank you very much, sir, for bringing that forth so we could have an opportunity to remind the people of where we are at. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, if we had to go back to 2015 prior to then and the work that we would have done as a newspaper, Mr. Glenn Lal, his number is 624-6456. You could raise it, call him and ask him, and he's going to justify to you why the newspaper is doing what it's supposed to be doing. It owes it to the people of Guyana. It has a mandate, a very clear mandate as to how it reports. So we're not going to change that. Come 2020 to 2025 for the next election period, we are going to continue to do our job. Whether it's PPP, PNC, DPP, whoever's in there, we are going to continue to do our job. I don't think it's going to change. Knowing Glendale, knowing myself, knowing that the people who are working at Kaicho News, Kaicho Radio, that is going to remain there. So, Yog, very quickly in your wrap-up, and then maybe room 592. Thank you.
Correct. Thank you, Leonard. And let me say this very quickly in response to Jackie. Jackie has sent a comment to say, hey, I want you two guys to be true. What did Jagdeo government do for the Guyanese people? Did they put money in the Guyanese people's pocket? And I would want to ask you, Jackie, what did Granger government do for you? Did he put money in your pocket? If you want to ask what Jagdeo government did for people of Guyana, they lost power because of what they did. And this is the same reason why this set lost power. And it's time to move on. Don't hold a country at ransom when you lose power. Don't hold people's necks over the barrel when you lose power. Have some grace, have some mercy for people. People need medicine, they need food, they need everything. You cannot continue to hold Jagdeo responsible for the Granger's sins and Granger's lies and corruption. Jagdeo bore his own burden. He was in opposition. Now you need to get on with it and get into the opposition bench and relearn how to do things. Now, I want to say this in closing, Leonard. Tonight, we're going to continue to assess what are the options that can arise out of tomorrow from the CCJ. What are the options and how can we assess them and how can we prepare for them? I want to say also in closing that, we are open. Send us your comments, send us your questions. You can ask a question without cursing. You can ask a question without trying to attack people in their family and trying to be abusive. Ask your question. Whatever is the question. I don't have a political backing. Kaicho News, Kaicho Radio doesn't have a political backing. Nobody's paying us. I am doing this for free. Leonard is doing it on his own. It's about addressing what is the right of the people. And until we can get that right, we got to continue the struggle. I remember it was no other than Burnham who spoke that our future lies in integration with the Caribbean people. And now it is Granger that is killing Burnham's dreams about integration and saying, mind your own business. All of those things we're going to be analyzing, Leonard, as we get into our room 592 tonight.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end for today. We had to do it a little early because we have some very important upgrades that we have to do. So thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be back with you this evening, 7:30 sharp, room 592. And then again tomorrow to bring you that court decision by the Caribbean Court of Justice. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. See you in a few hours.
COVID-19 tips sponsored by Dex Soap. 1. Practice social distancing. 2. Wear your mask when leaving the house. 3. Wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds using our Dex Soap. 4. Cover your nose and mouth with a disposable tissue or flex elbow when you cough or sneeze. Choose Dex Soap for that extra cleanliness. Dex Soap is affordable and available nationwide.